A very good afternoon to you, our viewers. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Punch Sports Extra. My name is Shegun Odunwayo. It feels great to be here again with my colleague Abiodun Adewale. Abiodun, very good afternoon to you. It feels great to be back in the studio. You were away for a while. The sports festival about 3-4 weeks ago, I guess, one of the two, but feels great to be back in the studio.
Of course.
Fortunately, we couldn't have you the week after the sports festival and all that, but I mean, it's great to have you back. Very quickly, we begin with Punch Sports Extra, the front page of the print edition, and he's there again. The boogeyman returns. He's back winning after 4 years of not tasting victory. Doesn't sound like good news, but hey, the Nigerian nightmare, Kamaru Usman, is back and is firing shots at title holders, and he's saying, I am indeed back, watch out for me. Kamaru Usman, very quickly, Bjorn.
Former welterweight champion. It's been 4 years. His last win, I think, was against Covington in 2021, November.
Yeah.
And it took him almost another
4
years before
years.
he got another win. Between then, he has lost to the same opponent, Edwards, I think about
twice.
Fight this person.
He lost about 3 or 4 matches.
Yeah. And because the streak wasn't just about him, the other Nigerian fighter in the UFC, Israel Adesanya, Stylebender, wasn't also having it back. So somehow, a lot of people didn't even know it's been that long since Kamaru Usman last won a fight. But good for him now. He's back. If he's firing shots, I don't know. It might be early days yet. But then, for someone who is coming back into the ring, it's not a fluke too for him to have got that win. And so it's just June. Let's see, maybe one more fight before the end of the year. If he wins again, then we might be rest assured that he's coming.
He's indeed back.
He's coming for this title.
The beauty about losing is that it makes you appreciate the days when you win. So when you lose and you indeed lose, you know how you feel when you go home angry that you didn't get. You didn't get your hands on that win, and when you did win, you feel very different. I mean, emotions just change. Very quickly, still sticking with the front page, Manchester United are set to want Ekitike. That guy, somebody said it's Ekitike. They now remove the K. It's not Ekiti. My good social media. Manchester United wanting everybody these days, but not essentially landing anybody outside of Matheus Cunha.
They sound like old takers. They want everything, but the money is in there. And look at the spending spree that they were on last year, bringing in 9 and 9.5. But then it all comes to nothing. Now they need a proven striker. That is the word they've been using. Since
a real number 9.
They need a proven striker this time around. And
is Ekitike proven? Ekitike
is not proven. Ekitike is just a guy that is coming into the fray because of the departure of Omar Mamouche
at Frankfurt.
And he just came into the game. I saw one of his games too. I think the only thing I saw was the speed and the flair.
I saw him in Europa. It wasn't
in terms of finishing.
Fantastic.
It wasn't there. I don't think it will be different from the kind of
9.5 and Joshua
Zexi who are currently there. But then we know the ideal man that they should get.
Don't say the Nigerian football nightmare.
That's the ideal guy that they should go for. Even personally, I think as much as I want them to go for him, I just feel that they want to suffer the guy too. By the time
he will hustle.
He will hustle just to change their fortune.
All right, because Biodun has gone there, let's go there very quickly. Victor Osimhen, a lot of controversy about this guy. Social media,
who is his agent?
What do we know here about Victor Osimhen? Even his, some persons. Anyway, that's a talk for another day, though. But sticking what we have on the front page, reports have it that Galatasaray are certain, they are sure that they are going to be getting him on a deal very, very soon. I mean, Biodun, what have you heard? A lot of people on social media are hearing things.
Because people are asking for who is Victor Osimhen's agent in all of this. So let me now talk like his agent. God forbid that Victor will stay at Galatasaray. But that is just on the light.
You should move ahead.
That is just on the light. The agreement was a 1-year dry loan.
That's all.
He has done it. He has ticked all the boxes for you guys. The ovation is loud. Let the guy
go after they've gotten Leroy Sané.
I'm sorry, no disrespect, but the Turkish Super League is not the type of league that you want a contender for the African Footballer of the Year to stay at the peak of his
career.
When the money is calling from Saudi and the top clubs in Europe are also mentioning his name. To even think that his name came up during a board meeting at Liverpool means a lot. And it means if they do 1 + 1 and if it equals to 2, they might actually bring him into the equation as well. So we don't know where it is going to be at the moment. But at the moment, we also understand that
But Gala has money. Gala has money. These days,
they actually don't have the money.
They are doing big deals.
Wherever they are getting this fund, they want to use.
People have been asking, where is Gala getting the money from?
Wherever they are getting that money, they want to use to fund Osimhen transfer to. It has to be one way or the other. They didn't have that. A month ago, they didn't have that money in their pool. 10 months ago, when Osimhen came to them and he started scoring all those goals, and they've been murmuring the idea of wanting to sign him. They've been exploring different options
of
to
getting
raise
funds.
the 75 million euros. So it's not like they had that money somewhere and they could buy him. If they had it, they should have probably bought him some years ago. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. But we understand United are still the only team that are re-evaluating the chances of signing him. Not forgetting that they failed to sign Liam Delap and Victor Gyökeres, we understand, has rejected them blatantly.
Yeah, even Branu Belmo is set to be on his way somewhere else.
To
Spurs.
So it's just pushing United back to the negotiating table now. Just reevaluate their options and see where they can cough out these monies. But then, maybe one of those two guys, too, or even the two of them, we'll probably have to leave as well.
All right, still talking about the front page, and somehow we're still talking about Galatasaray. That key goalkeeper that Barcelona is pushing away from all indications, Ter Stegen, have said to have agreed a deal with Galatasaray. And then this brings me back to my initial question. Where are these guys getting the funds from? They got Leroy Sané, not too expensive on a cheap, but look at the quality of guys that they are bringing in. Jose Mourinho may not be landing any Turkish trophy anytime soon with acquisition
the way
these guys are working on.
And look at the kind of players that they are getting. Typical old takers on the lighter note.
Frustrated folks, but are still good.
And they are really good at this point of their career. But they're just picking each and every one of them. Maybe there is one void they need to fill in there.
Yeah, your club have small issues.
Slot them here. You are not happy.
Yeah, your manager.
And that's the same way they got our man on loan.
Yeah, of course.
Look at how he repaid them. 37 goals in 41 games.
Yeah.
That is really massive.
Massive.
Sané can be in insane form throughout the entire campaign. Ter Stegen to one of the top goalkeepers. Muslera was their first choice. Quite old.
Yeah, of course, old.
If you want a very good backup on a very bad day for Muslera too, Ter Stegen
of course
will prove to be very good as well.
Of course. All right, still sticking with the front page. You made mention of it earlier, Biodun, but hey, Gyökeres to Manchester United is off. The deal is an X right now. And, we just begin to wonder what exactly is going on. It looks like Arsenal themselves are not going to be bringing out these funds to buy Gyökeres. And people have compared Gyökeres a lot with Osimhen. He's in a league that is not in the top 5 leagues, banging in goals. But the question is, can these guys do it on a wet day in England? Can you do it at the top, at the very top? Well, Osimhen perhaps has answered that question in the past because he has done it with Napoli. But same may not be able to be said of Gyökeres, and the man is still looking for a club because he has told Sporting from reports, I will never play for you again. He came out to deny that, but with footballers, perhaps his language was not that strong, but hey, when you see fire, smoke is somewhere. Biodun, Gyökeres to Arsenal, likely not happening.
It's a pity, and who do you have to pity here? Both parties, because at the moment it looks like Victor Gyökeres is facing certain issues at Sporting because of the way his transfer has been handled. There seems to be
in the last 2 years
that has been made, and it looks like the club are reneging on that. How much do they even want to sell him? They've raised his price tag as high as 100 million euros even before any transfer window was opened. And look at one of our teams that needs a striker at the moment, Arsenal, who are still playing hanky-panky. Even their fans are saying it. We ask you to buy a striker, you are buying a goalkeeper. So it's it's all shades of what kind of business do you want to do and where do you want to play next season. It looks all of them are undecided, but it's still the early days of the transfer window. I'm very sure by the time we get into August,
it will get serious because September 1 is the end of transfer.
And it is the serious clubs now that are getting players even before starting preseason.
Yeah.
And that's where it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So that these guys can integrate into the team very well. But then for most of the teams that are putting themselves under pressure, let's get to August. You see them running here and there to ensure that they get the players they need.
All right, still sticking with the front page. Aaron Cyril Dessers is said to be on his way out of Rangers and is going to AEK Athens in Greece. Biodun, what is happening? I know they have a new manager at Rangers, but this is a man who scored goals for fun last season, and then you are shipping him out. What is happening in Rangers?
There's always been one thing about Glasgow Rangers ever since Dessers got there. No matter how good he is, there is always one Rangers legend from somewhere who feels he should be doing something better. And there are a few of them who also feel that they should cut the guy some slack. But at this point, I don't think Dessers has anything to prove to anyone again at Glasgow Rangers. So this time around, if the money is right, and if the conditions are perfect, why not make the move as well? But I'm surprised too that of all teams around Europe too, maybe because he's 30 and passing 30 already, maybe that's why it is club like AEK Athens that are coming for him. You would expect that with the kind of profile that he has created for himself from Netherlands to Scotland, and he has traveled to different parts of Europe. I
think he's a proven striker.
So he's a proven striker. So maybe because he's 30, maybe that's why most of those clubs.
But we have guys that are doing great things, playing football at 30, banging in the goals. There's Cristiano Ronaldo at 40, banging in the goals.
Cristiano, that man lives in another world.
He's a beast. All right, very quickly we'll move away from the front page now. Of course, that's not all. Definitely, that's not all on the front page. Hey, you guys, go out there, ask your vendor, grab a copy of Punch Sports Extra, and have a great read. We'll be moving away from all of that now to the Club World Cup in the United States of America, and we'll be talking about the various angles. Let's start with the reception of football. They call it soccer there, but hey, sorry bro, it's not soccer, it's football there in the United States. Biodun, it was so bad that FIFA had to reduce the tickets, the price of tickets, and say, okay, you people are not going to buy, let's lower it. And Americans are not people that are known for, they don't need subsidy. Subsidy gone or not, they are fine. They will, if they are interested in your market, they will buy. It shows that, I mean, the question is asked once again, why are you taking football to a place where they don't love it? Why?
Testosterone, one, because in the next 2 years, we'll be seeing the grand edition of the biggest football showpiece.
The World Cup is next year.
In 2026. Yes. So that is just...
It's next year.
That is just a year into this, and so we'll be seeing the grand edition.
So this is intro to World Cup.
So this is like an intro to the World Cup, and whatever feeling, whatever attitude we are getting from Americans, especially in terms of turnout and all of that, maybe we should expect that. But then you know that a lot of people will also travel.
Yeah, outsiders. So outsiders will be filling the American stadium.
But at this moment, even for journalists who intend to travel for this World Cup, visas
were not given.
Visas were trumped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fans,
I think it's only one Nigerian journalist so far that left Nigeria for the US to cover. Yeah, just one lady.
For fans who also intended to travel to, visas were also trumped.
You want to travel to go and work in US? Say your mind. Is that where you are going?
So it's a whole lot of issues that FIFA didn't actually pay attention to before all of these hosting rights and all of them were done. And look at how much they've now positioned the Club World Cup. It's running almost free to air on different streaming platforms and all of that. But one thing that I'm wondering,
even the fans, they are stationed in places where the cameras are facing, so that the empty stadium won't. Oh my God!
The only game that I saw where they were bold enough to give us an aerial shot of the game was the game between Atletico Madrid.
I saw the aerial shot against Bayern too, but that was just for a couple of, just do it. And
so that was the only game that I saw that we saw the aerial shot of the stadium and we saw that it was full. So FIFA took a gamble with this one. They even had to go and bring speed. To
come on, enough of all this American internet sensation.
And when he was doing it, he had about 40 million streamers, 40 million viewers joining his live stream too. So maybe change the game a little bit for FIFA. But let's see how well. But it's as bad as they had to cut down the price of tickets to as low as $300. $250 for people to be able to just
$250.
Okay, let's come. We'll just come and watch. Let's see what you guys are
doing. Oh my goodness! I mean, if it was basketball, perhaps that place would have been filled up to
the
the
NBA
brim.
playoffs is on as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the MLS season is still over, but
somebody said it's not NFL. What are you looking for?
There are numbers of events that are ongoing in America at the moment that they are probably interested in than the FIFA
than soccer. Why am I watching soccer? All right, let's talk about the quality of football we've seen so far this tournament. I think it has been poor. I think the only game where there was perhaps proper football was the Al Ahly versus Inter Miami game. Yeah. The Bayern game was a stroll in the park. The PSG game against Atletico, it wasn't looking. It was. I mean, it was more like a preseason encounter, no rush.
Yeah.
The other game, another nil draw, 2 barrel draws in 4 games. The quality of football.
I think what we saw in the opening game between Al Ahly and Inter Miami was 2 teams who had to go at each other because on the Inter Miami side you had like the greatest footballer of all time, arguably the greatest footballer of all time. You had him there, and Al Ahly, a side coming from Africa, had a point to prove as well, and they could have won by as much as 4-0 if they took their chances.
They were just playing.
Those were teams who had something to prove at that level, and they know what it means going forward in their group stage too. But for other games, it's just a strolling park. I'm particularly about PSG versus Atletico. Atletico looked too ordinary yesterday.
They didn't.
Nothing worked for them in that game, and it feels like they just said, okay, it's okay. Let's just
take
it and let's see how it goes.
All right, the money factor, Biodun, for that draw for Al Ahly against Inter Miami, that's $1.7 million for the draw outside of participation fee. Now, if they make it, it's funny enough, all of them in that group right now are on 1 point, and 2 teams will be qualifying. So there's a strong possibility that they can still qualify. They are not at any loss so far, and they have 2 more games to play. If they make it into the next round, I think it's about 10 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more like a money competition, to be very honest.
And I dare say it too that I thought about it yesterday. For FIFA to be organizing a tournament as big as this, of this magnitude, at this time of the season, player that has just finished regular football season and they are coming into the World Cup, there must be something they are putting in
incentive
their pocket for it. Because when I saw PSG's lineup for their game, I saw Kvaratskhelia.
They benched Dembele,
but for these guys they
used some 17-year-olds
for their starting lineup to have had some very big names. What is it called? Bayern Munich started Harry Kane, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
There was Kingsley Coman and every other person there. So there must be there must be some form of incentives for this guy that they will put in their pocket after this. And maybe the winners might just be players like from Auckland City, who we understand are part-time footballers, but they have some jobs that they do.
Guys who have taken their leave earlier so that they will come
at the World Cup. So they might just be the biggest winners because the amount of money they will be able to make from this World Cup, it might be good enough for them to just set themselves up in their major gig as well.
Where they have, oh my goodness, the goalkeeper, for example, had 7 saves.
Yeah.
For me, it was my man of the match because it was not about the goals he considered. It was about his saves.
And they were more like professionals.
I mean, for these guys, guys playing sets, going to the World Cup, and then now doing something as great as, look at those his saves. If you see his saves, I mean, somebody should sign him. Maybe one Division 5 or Division 4 somewhere. I think he has the quality of playing real football, not, well, they play football too in Oceania, but hey, those guys are champions of Oceania, by the way. They've been champions about more than 10 times. So how do they do? What quality of football do they play in those places?
There's a way we say it in the local parlance in Yoruba land here. Olojukon.
Like I for you. Only king. He will be the king, a one-eyed man.
One-eyed man among many blind men. He's as good as a blind man too.
All right, I was watching an interview with one of the Bayern players now. I'm trying to see, is it Jamal Musiala? I think it's Jamal Musiala. When the journalist was asking him if he felt, no, not Jamal Musiala, Olise, Olise. The quality, didn't they pity their opponents? And he just said, nah. And he shook his head and was laughing. Because when you score 5, even if it is in your area, you know, you just start to showboat and all of that. But they just kept. Muller wanted to score. Jamal came on, wanted to score. Everybody, only Kane. I think only Kane was the big boy that didn't score.
If Bayern played as if they didn't want to score any longer, I'm very sure the fans would enjoy it. Longer. So it will be so boring for you if you had the luxury of going forward, score as many as you want to, and
creating history,
and just start passing the ball.
Creating around. Football history. As if you can score 20, score 20.
Score 20. It's an official game. And I'm sorry, Harry Kane didn't get a goal.
He did not
in that game before he was.
He did not. He did not get a goal. Those defenders, it was like they came for Harry Kane. They were doing their best. Harry Kane did not score against.
They should have got the 3 points for that reason.
Okay. All right. Moving on from the Club World Cup, and I was talking with, I think it was our producer earlier. I said hopefully when we get to the say quarterfinal stage where the big boys, you know, let's separate the boys from the men, even though it's just a preseason a trophy, but let's probably have Al Ahly, probably have Esperance, probably still have Inter Miami, you know, Real Madrid, the big boys, and then let the big boys face off, and let's see what we can, you know, indeed see. There was Jonathan Tah for Bayern, by the way, solid rock, created the first assist. Of course, you know, when you are playing for that club in Germany, you are a feeders team player of Bayern Munich, and that was what happened. He was playing for Bayern Leverkusen, captain of Bayern Leverkusen, and they moved on, and that was actually his first game for Bayern Munich, and I think he did well. Still talking about football now, this Victor Osimhen matter, Biodun, is a critical problem. This is the second season where it will be a full-blown discussion. Last summer, it was a full-blown discussion. In fact, it was the biggest story of the last day, the last days, the last day. It was the biggest story in transfer season across the world. Now he's obviously one of the biggest players in football at the moment, who wants to leave and who is being controversial. Where do you think Victor Osimhen will end up at the end of the day? Where? Because now Al Hilal, yeah, that's their club, that's the name of the club, are preparing perhaps a 7th or 8th bid.
And more money.
And more money.
Honestly, if you ask me where Victor Osimhen will play, I don't know. I think it's a question of where I want him to play. For sentiments, I personally want to see him at Liverpool. It's a wild dream, if you ask me. But the dream of him playing in the Premier League,
wouldn't that be controversial? I think that would be realistic. 2 top Africans. Mo Salah will go for Nations Cup. Victor will be going for Nations Cup.
That's why I said it's a wild dream for me. And but the dream of Victor Osimhen playing in the Premier League, I think, is still realistic. But it all depends on how United are able to fork out the money for him and get him if they really feel that they want him.
Why is Arsenal not going for him?
They don't look, with all due respect, Arsenal don't look like a serious team that wants to get a player. That's why I said, let's just wait till August for some of these clubs and let's see what they are able to bring together. Pre-season will start by July. Before you know it now, players will start resuming and all of that. And that is where the pressure comes in. That is where Osimhen started feeling the pressure last season. He got to pre-season training with Napoli.
He saw he was not wanted.
Before we knew it, they said he was frozen out. So I'm very sure he doesn't want those kind of situations to repeat itself. But I've told people too, he seems to be very cool-headed with this whole transfer saga this time around. I think he has all his cards. Everything looks to be in his advantage. For him to have turned down Al Hilal with all those kind of money
and saying no, I'm going somewhere.
Maybe there are some negotiations going on somewhere that people don't actually know anything about.
All right, still talking about transfers now. We can't but talk about the fact that Thomas Frank, when we were speaking about this last week Monday, we were saying he was on his way, but now he's been confirmed. The reward for winning a trophy with Spurs is getting sacked. At least we can now confirm that. But there's Thomas Frank, the man who was the second longest staying manager in with the Premier League club, who has now moved to Spurs. You know, they said Ange Postecoglou got sacked because they lost 22 matches. And despite the fact that he won a European trophy and he had even qualified them for the Champions League
next season,
that he deserved to go. What would Thomas Frank do that would make them say, hey, guy, it's time to leave?
Honestly, Thomas Frank took one of the most difficult jobs in the world because as bad as Tottenham looked with their statistics last season, for whatever angling Postecoglou achieved and for getting them into the Champions League, I think he has set whoever is coming to take his job, I think he has set that person up for failure already. Because number one, Thomas Frank must get them will have a target of getting them out of the group stage in the Champions League, which is very unrealistic.
Very difficult.
If they played the way they played last season, they might not even win a match in the UEFA Champions League. But good for him. He has been frankly hijacking players from Brentford particularly. United bound Brian Mbemo, but he's close to getting him. Yohan Wissa is somewhere in Brentford too, but he wants to bring him to Tottenham Hotspur as well. But he has to find a way. There's still Dominic Solanke. Richarlison is still somewhere in the mix too, and all of that. So, but I don't know what kind of ideology he's going to be bringing. But he has, within his last season at Brentford too, he has proven that he's a top-class manager. But I just think the Champions League is way out of his league for now.
He has never been there before. Never.
Never.
It was a Championship second division. Sorry, he was a Championship assistant manager to Dean Ashton, Dean Smith, I beg your pardon. And then they sacked his boss. He came on board.
He's been doing it well, but I don't think he's ripe.
Now, man, the Champions League.
He has age might say he has some kind of experiences. He's worked with this and he worked with that and all of that. But then, for a team that performed so poorly in the regular season last year and just find themselves in that Champions League, amen, that's step one to failure. Except you re-strategize and replan the whole thing. Bring some of the best players. Maybe with their status, so they might be able to attract some very good players too. Let's see.
I was actually expecting more from Spurs, really. Perhaps because they didn't have a manager. And now that they do have a manager, they're able to get players. Because if you are playing in Champions League, some players turn down Manchester United because, guy, you're not playing Champions League. And then you are playing in Champions League. Well, let's see. Very quickly move away from football now. We go to Formula One, where George Russell yesterday was winning the Canadian Grand Prix. But the biggest news was about the teammates who are... Lando Norris and Piastri, who are if you watch the highlights, you should be angry because you know there's a way you allow your teammates, like the one who is leading, you know, chase, and then you just support. You know, sometimes you have to do the dirty job. But you are now colliding and making a mess of yourself. I mean, one of them has actually apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I apologize." But how did that even happen in the first place? In fact, they took the fun and the highlights off George Russell because obviously they are some of the best players this season, some of the big boys. But George Russell looks like God just buttered his own bread, and you know we move.
He got the job. He did a fantastic job to have won the race in the first place. He took it, but some things on the tracks almost got the shine of him and all of that, but that won't be enough. He's been grinding so far this season. The season is before we knew it, we were saying the season is young and all of that.
Yeah, still young.
But before we know it, November is almost here.
True.
They will be mid-season. They will be getting to mid-season anytime soon. And if you are not picking up, you will be with such kind of wins that George Russell is getting. If he finds himself on the podium often this season with about 5 wins or 6 wins, he might be staying on top.
But that looks almost impossible, though.
Yeah.
The form Lando Norris is in at the moment. Even Max Verstappen
but
can't be written off.
But the beauty is that Max Verstappen, there hasn't been so much ado about him getting onto the podium and winning races this season as well. So that is where it might be tricky for anyone around there. Just make the podium consecutively, get a number of wins. How many races do we have in a year? You don't even, sometimes if you get to the podium all through the season, you might not need to win half of the races.
That means other guys must have been really poor.
Before your points will accrue. So, and the way the F1 season is, especially if you look at what has been, except for seasons when Verstappen has dominated in the absence of, in the poor form of Lewis Hamilton and all of that, every other driver have not really been coming to.
True.
And this season is almost looking like that. So even Max Verstappen that has dominated the last 2 seasons hasn't really been doing a lot. So if the other
guys was looking Norris at some point, and they're still looking Norris if we are being honest.
But if Russell can do that in Canada, he could do it in anywhere. He could do it in any other Grand Prix before the end of the season. And let's just see where it will go.
All right, as we leave, it's important that we tell you that the coach of the Remo Stars winning side, Coach Daniel Ogumodede, is about to get a new deal. You know what they say, what is worth doing is worth doing well. And how do we reward someone who has done a good job? By making him do more of the good job. Sounds like a good deal for me. I do hope is getting the cash, because at the end of the day, that's what is most important. A very big thank you to Abiodun Adewale for being in the studios here this afternoon. But the biggest thanks belongs to you, our viewers, for watching, because like I always say, we are here because you are there. My name is Segun Onayo. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Stay out of trouble. God bless you.